Hey everyone, how's it going? So I know it's been a little while since my last upload, but that's because I have been taking the month of January to kind of reflect on my collection. Now, I haven't been collecting dolls for very long. I started in summer of 2022 and we are now in January of February of 2023. So that's not even a full year of doll collecting. But one of the joys for me is organizing my collection, removing things, adding things, deciding what kind of dolls I want to showcase. So I wanted to take this new year to kind of reflect on my collection and sell some things that don't really make sense in my collection anymore. So without further ado, let's get into what I've sold so far. So one of the first dolls that I sold was the Integrity Toys Poppy Parker Beach Babe Basic Doll. So this Poppy Parker doll was, I believe, my second doll from Integrity Toys. The first one was the Ginger Gilroy doll. Don't remember what collection she was from, but I'll insert a picture. And when I first got Ginger Gilroy, I was really fascinated by how Integrity Toys made their joints, the articulation in their joints look really good. I don't generally like the way a lot of the joints look in articulated dolls, but Integrity Toys did it very well. They also have very high quality clothing and hair, so I was really fascinated and wanted to know more about it. So after Ginger Gilroy, I decided to get Poppy Parker, the Beach Babe basic doll, and she is one of the cheaper basic dolls that you can get on the secondhand market from Integrity Toys, and more specifically Poppy Parker. And as soon as I got her, my fascination with Integrity Toys and Poppy Parker kind of wore off. I just didn't really connect with Poppy Parker as a character. Now, I know there are a ton of Poppy Parker fans out there, so I will keep my opinions very short, but I just don't really connect with her as a character. I think that her facial expressions, her facial sculpt, the way she's painted, makes it really hard for me to connect with her. She just kind of seems like a mean girl, but not in like the fierce, fashionable way, in like the spoiled, bratty kind of way. But yeah, that's my take on that. But I will say that her fashions are really well made and they're really beautiful, and I actually do have a lot of her clothing. Now, I've kind of decided that if I am going to purchase from Integrity Toys, it will probably be because I like the outfit and I will take the outfit and possibly sell the dolls, or just purchase the clothing separately from the dolls. There's a lot of sellers who will split everything up. They'll purchase the doll from Integrity Toys and then sell the doll separately and the clothing separately. So I might just purchase the clothing separately. And since we're on the topic of Integrity Toys, I am going to mention another doll that I sold, which was from the Obsession convention. It's the Boudoir Noir Ginger Gilroy doll. And honestly, I don't really remember why I even purchased this doll. I think the price was right for her, and she was, again, one of the cheaper dolls that you could purchase from Integrity Toys on the secondhand market. But looking back on it now, I feel like I should have just been a lot slower with my purchases from Integrity Toys because they are not cheap, and it turns out I don't really see how they fit in my collection. So I wish I was a little bit slower with my purchases, but that is another doll from Integrity Toys that I sold. Okay, so one last doll from Integrity Toys that I am considering selling is the Poppy Parker Dance Date, I believe it's called. Formal Dance Date, it's called. And it's the collaboration they did with Hasbro. I did a video on it where I, took the doll and her dance date and I tried their outfits on Barbie and Ken. It was a fun video to film and I really enjoyed it. However, again, I don't really connect with the dolls, and I took them out once, redressed them, and now they're just sitting in their boxes with their outfits. But I haven't decided whether I want to let it go or not. It's gonna take a little more thinking for that one. Oh, okay, so I forgot one more thing from Integrity Toys that I purchased, and never even touched and now I'm selling. And that is a blank face doll head, and it's the Nausea Rhymes head sculpt. And I really like this head sculpt. I thought it was really beautiful, and I think there was like a short amount of time where I was like, ooh, I want to try customizing. I thought that I was going to start customizing because I do have a background in painting and drawing, design, so I thought possibly I could be good at this. And I think I tried it once and it just didn't work out. Luckily, I did not use this head to, practice on. I used something else. Yeah, so it just sat there and now I'm selling it. Okay, so that is it for Integrity Toys. Now let's jump over to another doll line, and that is LOL OMG dolls. Now I'm only selling one LOL OMG doll, and it's actually the only LOL OMG doll that I've purchased, and that is Cool Lev from the OMG guys. And that's not because, I dislike the doll or anything. I actually do like the LOL OMG dolls. I think they have really good designs, especially for a modern fashion doll. However, I just don't see how they fit in my collection anymore. I am trying to focus on Vintage Barbie and some other things that we'll talk about later in the video, but I just didn't see how it fit anymore. And when I was first getting into collecting, I was really fascinated by these, modern playline fashion dolls, and in particular, the boy dolls, because growing up I never really saw a fashion doll of a boy. So I was really fascinated by it, and I decided to buy him, and I really enjoyed having him for a while, but then he just kind of got pushed off to the side, and so I'm deciding to sell him. Okay, so now let's talk about Barbie. There are so many different lines in Barbie that as a collector who is just starting out, it was really overwhelming to figure out what it was I wanted to collect. So with Barbie, I was really interested in the reproductions, the vintage reproductions. I was interested in the Silkstones, the Barbie fashion model collection Silkstones, and of course the vintage dolls themselves. So I did end up purchasing dolls from these lineups, and I am selling most of them minus my vintage dolls. So as I mentioned before, I am deciding to focus my collection on the vintage dolls and some other things. One of the other things being the art dolls, or the sort of indie dolls, I guess some people call them. And I really love them, but I'm not selling any of those. But when it comes to Barbie, I need to kind of streamline it and stick with the vintage dolls and the vintage Silkstone repros, which there aren't very many of, which is why I like collecting them, because they release one, maybe two a year for the past few years. So yeah. So going back to what I am selling from Barbie, I am selling one of the Barbie fashion model collection dolls, and that is the classic cocktail dress from 2016. And I'm also selling another one that I forgot to mention. It's the classic black dress from, I don't know what year it is, but those two dolls I bought because I wanted to figure out whether this was something that I wanted to collect. And I don't regret those purchases necessarily, because selling them, I did pretty much sell them for what I purchased them for, so the value kind of held there. And I was able to kind of figure out whether this was something that I wanted to do. And it turns out that I'm not necessarily ready for the Barbie fashion model collection. I think they're beautiful dolls, don't get me wrong, but I think they're really expensive, and right now I'm enjoying the vintage dolls, and the vintage dolls have their own price tag. So I've kind of had to decide, all right, which direction do I want to head? And that for me is definitely vintage dolls. Maybe later on in the future I can kind of get into Barbie fashion model collection, but I don't know, we'll see. For now, I had them, I enjoyed them for the time that I had them, but now it's time to let them go. And that takes me to the last group of items on my list, and that's the Barbie repro dolls. Two of them I believe are from the 90s, and that's the Francie reproduction and the one with the American Girl reproduction. So I'm only selling the dolls and not the clothing. I do enjoy the clothing, but the dolls for me, they're just not it. The dolls are rooted with what I believe is Kanekalon. I'm not sure. If someone knows, let me know, because I really don't like this hair texture. But they used this type of hair in the 90s for a lot of the reproduction dolls, and it just does not look good. It does not feel good. I mean, it does feel soft, but it just doesn't look good. And also the Francie doll, I noticed that the rooting really wasn't well done. Like, her bangs were rooted incorrectly, and I could see the hair plugs, you know, where they rooted in the bang. So I wasn't a fan of that one. So I'm selling the dolls for that. The clothing, however, I am keeping. I like that. Another doll that I'm selling is the Color Magic Barbie from 2003. And this one, I really love the packaging. I am a sucker for good packaging. However, again, I just didn't really connect with it. But this is one of them that I purchased because I really love the packaging, but again, I just prefer the vintage on this one. Oh, and another one that I forgot to mention was the Barbie 35th anniversary reproduction dolls, and I am selling, again, just the dolls. Those dolls came with these, you know, reproduction boxes of what the original, you know, vintage dolls in the early 60s came with, and I really like those little boxes. I will say they are a tiny bit short, but you know, I like to use them for other purposes. And I also like the bathing suits that they came with. I use them on my other dolls, but the dolls themselves, I just wasn't a fan of. I mean, there's nothing necessarily wrong with them, but they don't really fit in my collection, so letting go of those. Okay, so now that is everything that I'm selling so far. So what is my collection going to look like in the future? I want to focus on Vintage Barbie. That is sort of where my heart lies, and all of the fashions that come with it. And that's specifically Vintage Barbie from the 60s. Another area that I want to focus on is the indie dolls or the art dolls. My holy trinity right now is Anouk by Virgin Arches Studios, Julian Kalinowski dolls, and Fabiola of Hollywood. I love the vintage aesthetic that they all have, and I will definitely be continuing to collect dolls as they come out from them. Okay, so the last thing that I want to focus on, and this might be a little bit of a surprise, or maybe a lot of bit of surprise for a lot of you, especially if you've been watching my videos, I am going to be focusing on, okay, maybe focus is the wrong word. I'm going to give a slight bit of attention onto a specific doll line, and it's not a fashion doll. Well, I guess it could be considered a fashion doll. They're not at the scale that Barbie is, and that is actually the historical American Girl dolls. And here is the first American Girl doll that I've purchased. Now, when I first started collecting, I was not into 18-inch dolls, like at all. I was definitely about Barbie, and that was like the scale that I liked. But for some reason, I really got into the historical characters from American Girl, and when I think about it more clearly, kind of makes sense. I love and have a passion for historical architecture, fashion, decor, all of it. And also, I like to sew. I was a professional seamstress for almost 4 years, so I definitely have that skill. However, I just wasn't motivated to sew for Barbie, and I think it was the scale. I just wasn't motivated to sew at that scale that Barbie was at. There just wasn't a connection between, you know, sewing at human scale and Barbie scale. So anyway, sewing at 18-inch doll scale has been really fun for me, and this is actually something that I sewed. It's a knit sweater. I basically took a knitting fabric and I sewed this. Oh, and by the way, this is Molly McIntyre, if you don't know. She's a character from the 1940s during World War II, and I really enjoyed her books. And that's something else that I really like about American Girl, is that they come with books with a lot of historical accuracies that I really enjoy. Okay, so anyway, American Girl historical characters are definitely an interest of mine now. However, they are pretty expensive. So I probably won't be doing a bunch of content on them, and if I do, it might be like sewing content. I am more gonna focus on vintage Barbie, especially on this channel, and the American Girl historicals are something that I'm still exploring with, and I'm just having fun sewing for. So that's something that you might not see on the channel unless I decide one day that I want to share more of it. Okay, so that's it. That is what I am selling and what I'm thinking my collection is looking like in the future. Let me know down in the comments if you took this new year to reflect on your collection like I did, and you know, what is your collection? What have you sold? What have you purchased? You know, how you see your collection going. I am really interested in how people curate their collection. I think it's a huge part of collecting is curation. Okay, so that is it. I will see you all on the next one. Bye.